The Hero Arena game mode is pretty tough, but today we're going to be demonstrating 3 teams that can one team solo the whole tower in the highest difficulty, going second. 2 of these teams I actually took from a YouTube video from Gar. I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly, sorry, my bad. I'm going to leave a link for his channel in the description because he actually has a team that I'm not using in this video, because I'm using another one that I found out. If you want to take, his videos and use the team that he was using instead of mine, then I'll leave a link in the description. But these teams can one team the tower, and keep in mind, you don't have to one team each tower. What you should be doing is, at least completing with 7 or more teams, just so you can get 210 coins. So even if you need to use more teams because you end up like losing at the last fight, doesn't matter, as long as you're completing it on the highest difficulty, you're getting way more coins. So these teams should at the very least really help you. And we're going to be going over each individual team, going over their gear sets, going over everything about them, explaining the team, and then looking at the gameplay. So against the first tower, you're going to be using goddesses. And you can play with them whichever order you want, but I'm going with, showing each individual tower. The first tower is goddesses, and for that, you're going to be using red Sauriel with, ideally every character you want to have their relics. With HP, I forgot to replace it. Pretend this is a leveled up piece, okay? HP, and you can see right here, this is an ungraved HP piece. I was actually nerfing myself, so I should have about the same HP as someone with much lower box CC than me. But it's because I actually have a defense piece right here, but it's so much more important to have crit defense in the middle, and it can be R. You can make R crit defense gear, it's fine. C crit defense gear. As long as you have the crit defense set and full crit defense rolls, so you can actually tank. Mael with attack crit. If your Mael is struggling to tank, then you can swap for HP gear. You don't need to plaster him with crit defense unless you want to. You can go attack crit defense, again, if he is struggling to tank. Tarmiel. Now, Tarmiel is an interesting one. You don't need to have UR gear for him at all. I would say if you already do, defenses at the top and bottom, and then crit defense in the middle. Again, same thing as Red Sauriel with full crit defense rolls. The reason for it is because you want him to be tanking the hits. And for him to be tanking the hits, he has to have the lowest HP, the lowest maximum HP. And for that, having the full defense gear is much better. And so he can still tank pretty decently, and he's going to be the one, taking the hits. And then Red SR Liz is same thing as Red Sauriel, HP and crit defense. Again, I just made R gear. And again, this one had to be replaced, but whatever. Like, if you have a broken set, this is why I always say, and sometimes I don't do it, what I tell people to do. The top should always be HP. Bottom should always be HP. When you're making HP defense set, right? And then the middles should be defense pieces because of this. Because so if you need to replace them, it's much easier. But regardless, let me go into the gameplay. Alright, we're going to be starting off with what I think should be the easiest one. Like, legit, goddesses with Liz, let's put my mouse out, is so nice. Like, it's so nice and easy. The team practically runs itself. Now, if you want to replicate exactly the attacks I've done on this video, you can do so. There were some differences. So, like I said, this team and the third team, I actually took from Raw. And he's free to play. I believe that was in the video. So he's free to play. So his pattern of attacks might have been like a little bit different than mine. So maybe if you want to follow his, but in general, if you don't have very low health, I don't use Liz heal. But if I do, then I use a Liz heal. Most of the time, they should be attacking Tarmiel because, like I mentioned, you gave him like the defense gear. And man, Mael. It's so crazy because, obviously in PvP right now, he still can hit pretty hard, but it's not the same, right? But man, in this game mode, because it's 4, and, he gets attack-related stats per goddess, he gets more damage on his single target per goddess, he hits so unbelievably hard. It's so nice to use Mael in this game mode. So Goddess is like the best. And I think for this tower, so again, this is the first tower, the hardest team for sure is the Goddess team. the Goddess team that you have to face with Blue Tarmiel and Light Liz is for sure the hardest one. So it's kind of funny. And when we get to the other teams, I'll talk about which ones are more difficult there. But, you know, other than that, it's fine. If you're struggling to tank, try to make it a little bit tankier. If you are struggling to tank with like Red Tarmiel because you don't have UR gear, defense gear for him, maybe at least make the bottom ones because it will come a long way. Just in general, if you can make this team specifically, you can take down a full tower with just one team. That alleviates so much for you to actually be able to beat the game mode. Because even if you cannot replicate the other teams, but you can do this one tower down, it's so good because there are so many other strategies as well that don't involve just taking one team and taking the whole tower. You can take as many teams as you want. Really, you can take as many teams as you want. You won't get the max reward, which is 240 coins, but 210 coins, that's still pretty good. That's 1 LR in like 5 weeks. That's still pretty good. So, you know, or it's a bit less than 5 weeks, technically, because you get the 210, but if you know, combine with the coins that you get 1 coin per week from that tree and the coins from Labyrinth, you know, adds up pretty well. So if you at least can work on these characters to be able to beat these towers, because this is going to be around, this tower is going to be around for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. If you have the characters but you don't have them worked on, consider. Like 6 weeks, you will take a lot from just using these teams. So yeah, the Goddess team I think most people will have access to, except maybe if you didn't summon for Mael, right? If you didn't summon for Mael, then that's one thing. But I'm assuming majority of people will have Red Tarmiel, Red Sauriel. These are SSR ticket characters, right? SR Liz and SR. Maybe the Holy Relics, but the Holy Relics are from an older boss. It's not like it's even a Holy Relic from like the snake, right? It's like this is like I think this is like the nicest team because it's so accessible and so good. Like this is again, I'm telling you, like this is the easiest this is the easiest tower, I think, because this team is so good. It's just Mael might end up being a character some people don't have. So here, I mean, I'm chilling. Ideally, every single time I start a new fight, I want to be at max HP. I didn't have to do what I'm doing here, but I wanted to wait a turn until the debuff from Rimuru is gone, so I can actually heal a little bit more again. Because, again, ideally, I would like to have as much health as possible before going into any fight, right? And you want to do that with every single one of these fights, by the way. Every single one of these teams, every single one of these towers, you want to, at the very end of the fight, as much as you can, lifesteal as much as possible. Do whatever you can. If you have like Red Liz, for example, just waiting an extra turn could be a little bit extra healing, or using a heal card, or using the ultimate, right? It could come a long way. So this is the hardest one because you can't win without dishing ults. You just can't. The Goddess team is so unbelievably tanky. So right there, actually, I think I should have done the AoE for Sauriel. Sauriel, his single target used to be good. It used to be good. But, you know, we're using HP gear on him. We can't really blame him too much, but he's only here for the basic stats, right? So as much as you accumulate basic stats, the better. And like I mentioned, like, it's impossible to win here unless you're dishing a Mael ult and a Tarmiel ult. Like, this team is so unbelievably tanky because of Mael, because of Liz. Like, the stats that Liz give. Blue Tarmiel, if he keeps constantly extensing as well. This is why this is the hardest for me. But in any case, I didn't have the best run here in terms of RNG because Blue Tarmiel took off my ult gauge every single turn. Every single turn. And that is a possibility, right? That is definitely a possibility, but my god. So I had to like tank the Liz ult. I was hoping Sauriel would be able to kill, but obviously he couldn't. The team is so unbelievably tanky, so he couldn't. Luckily for me, you know, Liz doesn't hit very hard, but she does apply the revive, which is pretty annoying, which is why I didn't even use the Mael ult. What I wanted to do was use the Mael ult and lower their damage, right? But if I killed the Mael, then I would take away the debuff from Tarmiel's Holy Relic, right? So he would just immediately ult. I was really hoping that either I would be able to you know, do something about that. But I was like, okay, I guess I died because, you know, I got cucked by the takeoff ultimate and stuff like that. But I don't know why this Mael is very, very weak. It's a 1-6 Mael, so it doesn't one-shot you, thankfully. If this was a 6-6 Mael, like you see, you only applied one debuff. If it was a 6-6 Mael, I would have died. But if you yourself have a lower ult level Mael, you definitely want to, you know, ult with both Tarmiel and Mael on the same turn, so you can dish out all the damage all at once. And this is the last fight, and this is the most chill of the fights. If you thought that last one was like, oh my god, that was pretty close, my god, the other towers are although, you know, the Ragnarok team is pretty crazy, but I don't know, the Goddess team is pretty nice. And it's crazy because it uses an SR, uses true old characters, like both Sauriel and Tarmiel. I know Tarmiel still has a stigma to him because he's so like crazy. His link is so crazy, right? But he is old. He is very old. He came out, you know, right after the end, and that was over. Like, that was almost a year and a half ago, right? So, Miles so crazy. Look at that damage. Look at that damage, and that's Tower 1 done. Team number 2 is Ragnarok. I guess it's more of an unknown team because Nashi is here. This is the one that I'm mentioning, like if you guys want to try out the other team that's available on Rar's channel, then sure, he uses Lost Vein. So if you already have Lost Vein, because you got like 60 coins, then it might be better for you. I went with Ragnarok because I really like this team. This is a team that me, Speedy, and our friend JBiz discovered sort of like last week. That is absurd. And the gear sets for tier, I'm using attack crit. The substats on the medium crit gears are crit defense though. You know, this team in general is so tanky. Like, you don't really need all that crit damage, or sorry, crit defense. Like, Freya is just standard HP defense. Freyr is just standard HP defense, and then so is Nanashi. If your Freyr has attack gear, then you might want to give him like the crit defense's gear. So you might go like attack, crit defense, and that could work out pretty well. Same with Freya, but you know, you don't need if you already have those HP defense gears. But for Tears, sort of, because he has a taunt in the first turn, and because I'm using him with attack, and he's gonna be targeted. But attack gear is still pretty good for him because you really want him to hit super hard. If yours ends up dying, then maybe you want to try HP, and it should still work pretty well. Card set, I went with just a plain damage reduction card set. I believe this should work here. It says PvP only, but this game mode, PvP passives work. Like Freya's passive literally reads PvP only, right? But it works. So I'm assuming the card set also works. If you want to go with a different one, some other options you can have are this one right here, the one with all the Lizzes. It gives unknown, I believe, 5% more HP related stats and 10% something. And there's another one that is specifically for Ragnarok, that if you have a Ragnarok unit, it increases your damage reduction, or gives you damage reduction by 10%. I don't have it done because I forgot to check out all the cards. But if you have that one leveled up, that also works. So let's get into the gameplay. Alright, so again, if you can't replicate this, maybe you can skip to the next tower and maybe check out Rar's video. But I think that the Ragnarok team is pretty good. It's pretty damn good. Like, look at this behemoth that Oh, Tyr is so insane, bro. Boom. He's so insane. Like, compare the AoE from Mael, right? To the AoE from Tyr. It's so absurd. The level of damage. Like, this is by far and away the fastest tower. And this is kind of the fact that I stall a little bit. Because, for the most part, I try to get, you know, people, or sorry, the units to heal before I move on. And Nanashi especially ends up being one that needs to heal, like, a lot. Like, he ends up needing to, you know, for me to, like, stall. And he needs to heal a little bit, lifesteal. And even then, it's chill. Even then, it's so chill. It's just, it's just a crazy team. And it's because of Tyr. And also because of Freya. Freya is the seasonal character of the season. And she makes the whole team get 20% all stats. Which, you know, pretty pay to win, really, for this game mode. The 20% all stats for the whole team. Not only the team is already pretty tanky, right? But, so, you know, every single of these turns essentially goes into, you know, they do some damage to Tyr. And Tyr, the lower his HP, the more attack and crit chance he gets. So, like, right here, he has so much crit chance, so much attack. Yeah, he has a max out on attack, right? Make sure to kill the green Liz. For the Goddess teams, you always want to make sure that in the first attack, you take someone down. Because the last characters on the field, the weaker Mael is. And you really want to make Mael weaker. Mael, just like when I was using the Goddess team, he's an insane asset. Because the more Goddesses, the stronger he is. When you have 4 Goddesses on the field, that single target is insane. Insane. He one-shots the ends like it's nobody's business. So, really want to watch out for him. And again, like, trying to make sure Nanashi is healed up before moving on. Every single time, he ends up being the one that's, like, kind of falling behind. But one cool thing about using Nanashi is having his passive makes so you don't have to worry too much about ults. Like, you know, on the Goddess run, I did have to worry about ults a little bit. Not too much, because Red Tarmiel also takes care of that, right? To an extent. He takes care of that to an extent. But Nanashi takes care of that even better. So, I mean, this team is so... every single one is very chill. On this run, I don't think there's a single one that's actually hard. Maybe I was over-exaggerating how good the Goddess team is, like, being the best. But I think, if you compare, right? Like, this team wouldn't be as good if not for the fact that Freya is literally giving everyone 20% all stats. Goddess team doesn't have any effect at all on them, right? While this team is being heavily boosted by everyone around it, right? Not only Freya, but, you know, but those characters are characters. I mean, Freya is a seasonal ability that's not going to ever be on apart from, you know, this season, which is 6 weeks. So, you know, the season is very long. You're going to have a lot of use out of the seasonal ability, but in any case, like this, it's almost unbeatable. And the fact that, you know, I'm not even using crit defense gear, stuff like that, it's crazy. But in general, if you can make the team, it's a free tower. It's just a free tower. You still need Nanashi's Relic, which could be a barrier, but, you know, I don't think you need... you definitely don't need Freya's Relic. You definitely don't. Nanashi's for sure. But, you know, Dogs is pretty old. Tonar was free. Like, please. make Nanashi's Relic, please. The thing is so good. Here I go for her first. There's no better one to go first on this situation. I wouldn't recommend the end because of Tarmiel Link. But generally speaking, just taking them all down and then going for Freyr's ultimate is the way to beat this, because you don't need, you can actually just do it normally, but having something that hits twice ends up making sure to kill the Tarmiel Link at the end, because the fact that they still have a Tarmiel Link at the end on this pisses me off. My god, I hate this full recovery gear Tarmiel at the end is insane, because just damage cap, Every single hit she takes, she practically full heals. When she attacks you back, she full heals. So you definitely do need to do like a second hit to make it faster. You can actually beat it without doing that. It's just very, very long. Very, very long. It takes upwards to like 10 minutes just attacking one DN. Super, super annoying. So, yeah. Freya ends up doing the second hit to finish it off. I attack first in the Nashi to, you know, a lifesteal. If you don't have 6-6 Freya, then, you know, do an attack first and then the ultimate. Because the ultimate doesn't hit the same damage twice. It's a little bit lower on the second hit. You're gonna do damage cap. No problem with the first hit. But the second hit's not gonna be, you know, 100% of the damage, so... And I believe this is the last team of the tower. Let me see the time duration here. Yeah, this is the last one. And Tyr makes short work out of it. He just... Boop. Everyone is practically dead. So absurd. So absurd. Tyr makes short work. I mean, man, Tyr should not be a unit. Like, genuinely, he just shouldn't be a unit. He is festival level, but he's a Ragnarok character. Like, it's insane. Yeah, that's Tower 2 down. And last but not least is this one. This is a wacky one, so I'm gonna explain. Matrona, in combination with Melascula's passive, in theory should never die. You need every single match to go under 3 turns, though, for that to be a thing. Zeldris is here for his, you know, everything he does, his passive and his relic. Purgatory melee, I don't think I need to explain. The gear side you're going to be using him in is HP crit defense. Now you might see my crit defense is messed up because I messed up melee gear a long time ago. And his defenses are in these positions. Like I mentioned, do not do this. Always defense goes in the middle, or crit damage in the middle, for this specific reason. Now, because of this, an oopsie happened, but HP crit defense with crit defense rolls, Melascula the same thing. I actually have the R gear for her, so it doesn't have the R, but R works. I just so happen to have it because that's her optimal gear set for PvP anyways. And then Zeldris, again, I'm taking someone else's crit defense gear. So, you know, HP crit defense could work with the R as well. And Matrona, you just want to have only... You can have 0 gear on her, actually. But you just want to have only the top ones. Matrona, actually, you don't even need the Holy Relic. I had it equipped, but you don't need it. You just need her for her passive. She's going to be dead the whole time. You know, but actually having Melascula's passive, keeping her alive, and then healing constantly your whole team. Card set, this is the one I used here. Gives demons 10% more damage against non-demons and 5% damage reduction against non-demons. You can use just a plain 10% damage reduction gear set like I mentioned. I think that works out as well for it. So let's get into the gameplay. Alright, Tower 3, and this is by far the hardest. If you need to use multiple teams on this one because you died on like the third fight or fourth fight, don't worry, I'll just say keep going. This is by far the hardest one, and it's not even close. It's not even close. So, idea here, of course, Melascula will ensure that the Matrona will just remain alive, and ideally you're constantly ult rushing with melee. So here in the first turn, I have the attack buff, so I do damage cap on all of them, and I've had runs out. This took me like 5 attempts. Yeah, all the other 2 towers, so easy. I did it like first try, barely looking, right? This one took me 5 attempts, so I would say maybe do this tower first, or if you want, again, if you don't mind going with more teams, you know, just do the other 2, ensure that you got the other 2 with 2 teams, and then do this one, and then whatever units you have left to continue the tower, just do with that, right? But with this one, ideally, you're pushing melee ults, and every single end of, you know, the fight, ensure they're life-stealing as much as possible with Zeldris and Melascula. They're gonna be pretty much topped up with Matrona, but not entirely. They're not gonna be full health majority of the time after a full heal for Matrona, right? Matrona can only heal so much. So you want to ensure that they are either at max health or very close, because I'm telling you, these stages hit hard, and I've been wiped on not on this one, but on the 4th and 5th fight, and the third, 4th, and 5th fight, just wiped first turn, and you know, in the 4th fight especially, that's the really tough one. You really want to have your Zeldris in max health for that one. So it continues business as usual. There is a certain RNG to this fight right here. All the fights are going to be RNG on this team, but this one especially, Tarmiel can or cannot do a stance in the first turn. It doesn't change anything for what you're going to do. You're going to be single targeting with melee on Tarmiel. But regardless, the difference that ends up happening is if you don't end up having him stance, cool, you kill him. But if you do, you're going to have to taunt with Matrona so you can ensure the melee ult. Because, you know, Tarmiel can remove ult gauge and stuff like that. No biggie. Just, you know, I would be taunting with Matrona right here instead, if it was the case. If I didn't kill the Tarmiel, which will happen. I think it's like a 50-50 if he does a stance or not. So here, I get the melee ult, and I don't know what ult level you're going to end up needing here, especially for this fight. Like, this is... this tower is really messed up. This tower is really hard. But in general, I just realized actually my melee doesn't have the attack boost. Always have the melee with attack boost. Also, ideally have the enemies debuffed. So either debuff them with Melascula, like I just did, or with Zeldris, and ult after, so melee does the 40% more damage. If there's stance, then... but there's not many stanced teams. Only the Tarmiel, I believe, stances on these. This one can wipe you straight up as well if you don't have your Zeldris and Melascula at like practically full health, and it's tough. There's nothing else for me to add. It's tough. Card RNG will be also pretty bad for you if they end up drawing a level 3 Roxy AoE. I know this because it happened to me. Then you're just dead. So, this tower is just really tough, is what I'm trying to say. This tower is really tough. So, again, your characters get healed up pretty good, though. So, I do this. Ensure that Easton is dead. The reason why I'm going for Easton over someone else is because she already has a debuff. She already has the Ignites. Theoretically speaking, Easton is the worst character here. But it's fine, it doesn't really matter. All the single targets, so Lilius and Roxas, go to Matrona because she has the least health and she's red. But, you know, if you got really unlucky and they all just non-stop AoE you, is what it is. Not much else other than that, it just is what it is. So here, want to start concentrating on getting the Zeldris to max health because you need it. Zeldris needs to be max health for the next fight. If he is not, oh well, you're just dead. It's whatever. Like, if you die the next fight, continue for a different team. So, just put something that can wipe, like an ult rush team, like a suicide team with like Liz and Fraudrin. Liz or Fraudrin, not both at the same time. And you're chill, right? But so boom, Zeldris. I made sure to attack with him first, so I get full health. So he's topped up, right? He's topped up. That's what you need to be on the watch out for. He's topped up. And so now, what's gonna happen is Zeldris is going to die. I know I just said you have to have him at full health, but he can't die in the first turn. There's nothing you can do about it. He is going to die because Rimuru not only is going to seal you from healing, he's going to focus on Zeldris immediately. And then King attacks again. Like, my Zeldris had a pretty decent sliver of health still left. Keep in mind, my box is much higher, but I do have an SSR gear. Like, I don't have him with both UR gears. I also do keep that in mind. If you do have lower box CC, but you have the HP bottoms UR, then you will be like about the same as me. And Zhao is gonna die here. There's nothing you can do about it. But if he died on that previous turn, you would be losing attack with melee, and that would mean that you wouldn't be able to kill Rimuru. And if you don't kill Rimuru, he steals the buff from Matrona. So you're just screwed. So it had to happen, right? You had to take care of Rimuru. And then here, it's another melee ultra rush essentially. A little unlucky on my cards because I kept getting Matronin and Masculine cards, which are useless, but it's whatever. Melee can... I got pretty lucky that King didn't attack, right? Because King's shield is troublesome. But melee takes care of that. No problem. And then, so here's the last one. And the last one's pretty simple. You're just doing what you've been doing. You're kind of ultra rushing with melee. And here's something, right? Remember that my melee has HP crit defense, but the left side doesn't have crit defense rolls because I messed up his gear, right? Well, that just so happens to mean that my melee cannot tank enough to survive this stage. So what happens is, here, I do my first turn, I taunt with Matrona, so that they don't go for taking off auto gauge on melee. Once he does end up getting it, remove buff, and attack. So this full heals melee, that's no problem. Second turn here, what I should have done, or maybe, I don't want to say should have, but what ideally I could have done is being able to heal with melee by attacking, but I move cards with melee and heal with Melascula here. He gets some ignites on him. Not ideal. Not ideal. Philo absolutely shreds him, and she got level 2, so he's dead. If I had the crit defense gear, he would have survived. And I was like sitting here a few seconds like, what just happened? Alright, the oopsie resolving team. You can make variations of this, but this is my one pump chump. This is the this is the one that wins against one team, and that's it. But it wins very nicely. So Liz is Liz. She's there to die and give ult gauge. Bon, I just have him with HP defense like normal. No problem with that. Arthur, I just have him with HP defense like normal as well. And then Twigo, I actually have him with HP defense, but the substats are crit defense. Ideally, actually, these would also be crit defense. And the card set is the one that gives our characters 30% more basic stats, and it just wins against one team. It works out. I mean, there's not much else for me to explain that I haven't said already. You just go in and you ult rush with Ban and you win. If you don't have Ban at 6/6, you can use a different ult rusher, so long as they have high HP and they can tank. All that matters is that you're ultra rushing with a high damaging character and get the dub on this. Maybe you have like Festival King, not the winged version. I mean, the winged version could work, like the full wing version, because they have a lot of buffs. Maybe if you have them with high dupes, that works. I was mainly talking about the other festival one, but that's a guaranteed. He just wipes and that's a guaranteed kill. So that's all the teams. And yeah, good luck, because this game mode is pretty tough.